Welcome to the Ricky Mathews Show, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. From the STMM Digital Studio, the digital marketing and advertising arm of SuperTalk Mississippi Media, from the STMM Digital Studio, I'm thrilled to be here on Monday, September the 11th, man. You look, gosh, amazing. September the 11th, 2001. I remember exactly where I was. I had just become publisher of the Sun Herald, and we were at a reception in our conference room. The first plane had already flown into the first World Trade Center, and we were still trying to process what had happened. And then we had the TV on, and I was welcoming a group of community leaders to this little reception, including them in this celebration of me becoming publisher of the Sun Herald. And while we were in that meeting, the second airplane flies into the second building, and I looked over at Stan Tyner, who's the executive editor of the Sun Herald at the time, and I said, I think it feels strange to be in this moment, and I think it would be wrong for us to continue a reception honoring this me becoming publisher of the Sun Herald. I think we should have a moment of silence for the people who are obviously being killed in this moment. And then Stan and I are going to go downstairs and talk about doing a special edition of the Sun Herald, which we did. We went downstairs and that's what we did. But it was a defining moment for our country. I'd only been publisher of the Sun Herald for about 4 weeks. And life changed for all of us. Now, 22 years ago, whew, man, think of the changes that have happened in the past 22 years. Lord, have mercy. Wow. September the 11th. Anyway, we're going to shift gears now. We're going to move over to my friend Kenny Holloway, who's the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs, and someone I really enjoy catching up with. We're actually going to spend the whole show with him today, catching up on some of the urban renewal efforts that they're doing in their city. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be mayor in the city you grew up in, something I love to get his latest thoughts on. But without any further ado, let me welcome my friend Kenny Holloway back to the Ricky Mathews Show. How you doing, Kenny?
I'm good, Ricky. Thank you for having me. I was just listening to you talk about 9/11, and everybody. There's certain defining moments in your life, and that's one that if you lived, you know where you were that day. And since you shared where you were, I'd like to share a little bit about what I was doing that day.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I was living in Biloxi. And my children were going to Nativity, and Wes Fulmer and I were having a meeting with at the Biloxi Chamber of Commerce, the old building on the beach there, with Kimberly Nastasi. Anyway, she came in and she just, like somebody had, just sucked the wind out of her and started talking about it. And we watched the TV and saw one of the planes crash, and I immediately just left and went right to the school and walked in, and Sister Mary Jo was there, and I just wanted to, hey, just a friendly face, if you need something, let me know. How are the children? So there was just all kinds of emotions that ran through us that day and into the next weeks, and months, as that all unraveled there. So many stories. So many feelings that you still harbor that many years back. It's really something.
Yeah, it's interesting because I once wrote about Hurricane Katrina in the book, in the foreword I wrote for Haley Barber's book, America's Great Storm. That the previously unimaginable became the undeniable reality. And that really fits the September the 11th as well. That who could have ever imagined that this incredibly coordinated effort by these hijackers using box knives, and we know the whole story obviously by now. We could have never imagined that they would do such a thing and fly planes into buildings, and in a lot of ways the America had to grow up in that moment. Our kids and all of us had to grow up in that moment and realize that we live in a place where there's evil. and it's just going to be part of the conversation from now on. But it was a very transformative time, and I'll never forget it. And I often said in the days that followed that life as we knew it will never be the same again, and it's still true today, isn't it?
It is. And we have we've been through storms, and we know how devastating those kind of disasters, and that was a disaster, can be. But you gotta forge ahead.
America learned a lot about resiliency. I talk a lot about the resiliency we learned after Hurricane Katrina, but America learned a lot about resiliency. And in a moment, we were actually all together. I wish we could be back there. It's interesting. September 11, 2001, 22 years ago, we didn't have social media. We didn't have smartphones. Smartphones didn't come about until 2 years after Hurricane Katrina. Think about that.
We did graduate from bag phones, though.
Say it again?
I said we had graduated from bag phones by then.
Yeah, for sure. But you think about it, the smartphone that, as we know, the iPhone wasn't even introduced by Steve Jobs until 2007. So what that tool in everyone's hand, it certainly allows everyone to be a reporter, for good or for bad. It allows everyone to sort of be able to touch a lot of people rapidly if whatever they're on becomes viral in nature. It enables us to be divided rapidly. So unfortunately, that's just the tool. And I've said it a lot, whether we're talking about on the national level or whether we're talking about being mayor of the city. There's a lot of great that comes from social media. There's a lot of bad that comes from social media, and it's tough to be a public figure in the day of everyone being a reporter and everyone being on social media. It's tougher, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I was getting coffee this morning, and I get coffee downtown every morning after my walk, and a guy looked at me and said, "Man, I don't know how you do it." He said, "I could never do it," and I said, it has its days. It really does. It can wear on you. You gotta have thick skin to be in this business, and you've got to, there's several things you have to be successful. You have to have good people working around you, and I do have that. But it's a scary tool that phone is right now. It really is. Affect people in multiple ways.
Yeah, let's reflect on that a little bit, because I've managed major media change in the day of social media. My name has trended on Twitter before, just to kind of give you a sense of that. So when you're in a position like that, what enables you, what holds you up, what buoys you, is a confidence that what you're doing is right, that you're moving in the right, you're doing something that's going to save a company, or you're doing something that's going to strategically adjust the company in a way that enables it to stand the test of time and not die in the next couple of years. You're same thing with the city. The thing that buoys you, Kenny, is first of all the fact that you grew up in Ocean Springs, and you're the mayor of a city you grew up in. And and by the way, Ocean Springs, a mostly bedroom community of extraordinarily educated people who are really, really engaged in the community. We've talked about all those things before. What buoys you is, first of all, a confidence that the vision you have and that the city council has and the city has, for the most part, moving forward, is one that you can be excited about and be passionate about. And anytime you make changes in anything, I don't care what level you're at, the human reaction to change, I don't care how much you accept change, is to oppose change. People just oppose change. Now, some people hang in there opposing change longer than others. And because they have social media, they can say things that they would never really say to your face. In most cases, that's true. But it does require you to study harder, to work a little harder, to have more confidence in your vision, so you can stand sort of the pushback that can come at times. That's true, though, isn't it?
That's very true. It's very true. And I get it. It's always not in my backyard. That's no one wants any change in their backyard. And but what we're doing is we're we're going through our comprehensive plan right now. That is kind of the blueprint of how the city moves forward. And if a city's not growing and moving forward, you're going backwards. And and if that's the case, then you're not going to be able to provide the services that people are accustomed to and they want. So it's a delicate balancing act. I know you and I've talked about it before. It's you got to grow the city the right way. You got to protect what makes Ocean Springs special, and and there's some growing pains. But I believe overall that we're making the right decisions. We're studying it, and we're making informed decisions. So that's the best we can do.
Hey, why don't we do this? When we come back on the other side, we'll talk a little bit about that strategic planning process and why it's so critical and why you have to be thinking in these ways if you want your city to move forward. We'll continue our conversation with the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs, Kenny Holloway, when we return. See you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Mathews Show from the STMM Digital Studio. I have my friend, the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs, Kenny Holloway. And when we went to break, we're talking about creating a vision for your city. And the way you get to a vision, incidentally, is you have to really be engaged in a strategic planning process. I'm going to paint kind of a high-level view of this, Kenny, and then you can sort of talk about how the city falls within all of this. But One of the things we all learned in college was, if you have a degree in business, is that I wish if I had $1 for every time a professor said this to me, I'd be rich today. And that was that the moment that a business, this could be for you individually, incidentally, as well, but the moment a business or a city decides they have arrived, at that moment they start to go backwards. That's just the reality. And you must be committed to constant improvement. And by doing that, you're looking at market data and market information. You're seeing where opportunities are. You're seeing where you're struggling and whatever. I had the opportunity to lead strategic planning for Knight Ridder, the parent company for the Sun Herald, and got to work with some great consultants and learn a wonderful process. But essentially, when you think about a strategic planning process, what you're going to do is you're going to understand it's very data driven. There's some qualitative analysis as well. In other words, what do people think, and get input from people, et cetera. But what you want to do is you want to do a current process analysis. You want to look at what is the current situation. Where are we strong? Where are we weak? Where are there opportunities? Where are there things that need to be improved? Where are we as it relates to infrastructure? The city is spending tens of millions of dollars on infrastructure, incidentally, as we speak, that's going to actually enable future things to happen. And then what you do is you kind of set that aside for a second and you say, okay, what did learning about all those things do to help us say, okay, what does the city want to be as it continues to move forward? Some of those things are things that you're inspired by that make the city special, the special sense of place of the city, the walkable community, the neighborhoods, these things. You want to preserve those, and you want to understand how do they fit into context of the vision going forward. Some of it's about learning what other communities have done and looking at best practices in cities around the country and saying, okay, what can we learn from them that we could apply here that would help us not only preserve what we think is best about the city, but at the same time maximize its opportunities to increase the economic base, to increase the number of businesses that pay taxes in our city, et cetera. It's a valuable process to go through, isn't it, Kenny?
It is. It's valuable. It's expensive too, but it's valuable. And we committed to that 2 years ago when I was elected. The comprehensive plan, which is our blueprint for growth, and how we go forward. It was 14 years old. That there's a lot that's happened in 14 years, as we talked about earlier. But it should be the dust should be knocked off of that about every 10 years, and it's projecting out 20 years. So one thing that's coming out of that is we're forming a redevelopment authority. And we got 5 very bright minds, very diverse minds on this committee. And in order to make that happen, we had to have an urban renewal plan. So we hired a planner. We had our own planner and an attorney that kind of put this map together. And it's 6 locations, 6 quadrants throughout the city. But we figured, and they figured, if Ocean Springs is to grow, this is where it needs to grow, and this is a tool to help us grow, and to help us grow right. So a lot of planning goes into it, a lot of research. It's by statute, so some of the language in there is kind of harsh, but it's not anything that we don't have the power or the authority to do as a city right now. But we're hoping that we can attract some financial help for people who want to improve their properties. And that's what it's all about. There was a lot of discussion locally about the city just going to make a land grab and take these houses and run these people out of their houses, and make a concrete city out of it, which is far from the truth. If you've ever been around an eminent domain situation, which I was around a big one at the IP in Biloxi. You got to know that if you don't have something that stands up in court, a judge is not going to let you just go take somebody out of their house and put them somewhere else. I mean, that's just not the way it works. But when we go back to social media, how do we get our message across? Well, you can't contact 400 different parcel owners in this urban renewal plan individually. So we try to get that message out through social media and shows like yours.
Hey, well, Kenny, what's interesting about this, and the best cities in America have taken a similar approach. Again, change is not easy. But if you're working toward a vision that the majority of the citizens can buy into, that would create more opportunities for the city to be successful, not just in terms of, I would say in terms of building a diversified economic base that's got a lot of moving pieces to it. You got to do this. And, as you said, you think about, the conversation you and I had about the significant infrastructure improvements that are happening in the city and that will happen in the city over the course of, I guess, many years. It's, people don't want to talk about water and sewage and all these, basic elements as it, relates to the infrastructure. But that's the nerdy detail of success of a city, because if you don't have the bones, you can't begin to build the muscle in the city. The same thing is true. You talked about having urban planners and lawyers involved in this. As I came to really appreciate after Hurricane Katrina, that it's in the code and then in the ordinances and in the zoning where the success really happens. This is where you protect the sense of place that everyone has fallen in love with, and you enhance that. And this is where you make where development might occur more profoundly understood going forward. But again, just like with infrastructure, success is in those details, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, we identified right at $30 million worth of infrastructure needs immediately. Currently, we're with the ARPA money, we're able to address almost 17 million of that. So, out of something that was very bad, we're going to be able to take advantage of it and fix some of the the older parts of our city. Ocean Springs is 30 years old. We've got crumbling pipes. We've got streets that need to be rebuilt, and also we've been able to forge some relationships in Jackson to help us with some of these infrastructure needs too. Washington Avenue here, south of Porter, going to the beach, it floods on a high tide. So with the help of Tidelands funds and Go Mesa funds, we're going to be able to rebuild that entire stretch of road. And I'm talking about just laying an asphalt level over. We're talking about new water, new sewer, new drainage, elevating it about 4 feet to keep it out of from flooding frequently. So, yeah, there's a laundry list of things we do and we need to do, and we keep keeping our eye on that, and trying to make the city better, from the basically under the ground up. But if you don't have a strong tax base, that you get behind and not ever catch up. So it's a balancing act, like I always say. people want the services. Well, we want to give them the services, but we have to be able to afford those services in order to give them what they're looking for. So growth is going to happen. I've been to several cities around the southeastern United States where you go to their downtown, it's boarded up. There's vacancies, empty buildings. That's not what we have in Ocean Springs, and that's not where we want to be in Ocean Springs. We've got a vibrant little community here, and we need to keep it vibrant, and I think we will. There's been a lot of, talk about new bars coming and adding more bars, and people don't like that. But really, what's going on is people are taking the same locations and just upgrading them tremendously. Kenny Williams is just taking a couple of new locations and upgrading those. We got my buddy over at Knuckleheads. He took an old Heath Allen. He took an old service station and created a neat little sports venue out of it with great food and so forth. So there's a lot of different things that are going on. The hospital, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but the hospital is growing in Ocean Springs. The school district we got a new superintendent. The school district is vibrant. I tell people what makes Ocean Springs special is three things, or what keeps it moving is three things: our medical community, our high school, our school system, and our downtown area. Those are three very important issues.
There is no doubt about that. Hey, when we come back on the other side with Kenny Holloway, the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs, we'll continue the conversation about all these important details that have to be figured out if you want to reach a vision for the city that gives it the opportunity to maximize its opportunities while preserving its sense of place. Boy, that's a delicate balance, and you really got to pay attention to the details. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Welcome back to the Ricky Mathews Show from the STMM Digital Studio. I have my friend, the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs, Kenny Holloway. And change is not easy, man. Change is not easy. But here's the interesting thing. You can either do change in a way that is planned. In other words, you've nailed down to the best of your ability what the zones in the city need to be. You've nailed down what your building codes need to be. You've done everything in your power to sort of write all those codes and indoctrinate them into the way the city's going to grow, so that people can understand what the rules are, and then you really can turn developers loose. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. Or you can still go forward and do it serendipitously. But either way, you're going to have things that you're either going to make changes by exception. In other words, a great project comes up and you go in there and you have to make a one-off, and you keep making one-offs. If you go that route, Kenny, what you end up with is a city you don't really want, because the evolution of these changes is just serendipity is prevailing instead of the first approach that I was talking about, where a vision prevails, and there's a much more orderly, much more thoughtful process about how to preserve what makes this city so special. And you're trying to avoid the second part. You don't want this to happen serendipitously. You want it to happen in a way that's extraordinarily understood and that gives the city the best opportunity for success. That's true, isn't it?
It is. It's kind of like trying to add on to your house without an architect, and before you know it, you've got a hodgepodge of stuff going on. So, we're using the resources that we have available, and hiring some smart people to help us, and that's there's a plan. There's a plan to grow and to develop the right way. And I'm not talking about the next 2 years or the next 6 years. We're talking about some generational changes that if we don't take advantage of it right now, we'll never have that opportunity again.
Yeah, you have. I used to say in strategic planning, you have to begin with the end in mind, because there are steps that need to be taken that will enable other things to happen. If you don't take those steps today, you may not ever have the opportunity for them to happen in the future. And that's why, you say the process is expensive. It is expensive for a reason, because there's a massive amount of data that's being collected, a lot of best practice information that's being brought together. And when you start really zeroing in on, okay, we're getting pretty close on this vision, when you start to sort of create the details that we talked about the last segment, that, in zoning and so on, it's a lot of work. I mean, you have to take the point of view when you're getting into that level. We can't leave a stone unturned. We have to really understand how all this might play out, and it's very detailed, isn't it?
It's very detailed, and it's very mentally exhausting sometimes, because you're thinking about generations, and what they're going to say 20 years from now when they look back, or 30 years from now and look back about the changes that are made, this year, next year, and the years to come. So you want to make sure you do it right. You don't get a second shot at a lot of the stuff we're talking about. So, I just want people to, people say, well, what do you want them to say in 20, 25 years, about your administration and the board and all. I said, I just wanted to say those guys and ladies, made the right decisions for Ocean Springs. Protected Ocean Springs. They grew Ocean Springs, and and they did it the right way. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's all you can hope for in politics.
No, I totally agree with you. And there's no way to go through a process like that without naysayers, without some being incredibly change averse. That's why the role of the mayor is so critical, and the role of the city council is so critical, and those employees engaged in the process. Your ability, one conversation at a time, to be able to describe the vision, because it's so true that it's hard to get from here to there without a roadmap. And when we can all agree on what the roadmap is, it makes it easier. And let's tell you, I think about something Haley Barbour said a lot after Hurricane Katrina. He said, look, the state and the federal government, and to some extent local governments, are going to help people get back on their knees. But it's private investments that's going to help us get back on our feet. So we've got to think about what are the things that we can do that enable. And by the way, one of the other points he made, and I think this is important to understand before I even get to the second part that I was going to mention, and that is that when you think about private investors, they have their choices. They can go to that community over here, or they can go to Alabama or Florida or Georgia. I mean, they got their choices. So don't think that they're just going to do business in Ocean Springs. They can go to Starkville if they want to, or Oxford, or Long Beach, or UC. Get the point. It's extremely competitive. So the point that he was making is that you have to make it so that developers understand how the money they're going to be spent today, that it's going to be protected in a way that, because it's part of a bigger vision. If we didn't have that vision, they're going to be least likely to spend tens of millions of dollars, because they're worried about, the serendipity of the city and where this might take us. So the point is, government can help you get back on your knees, but it's private investments that's going to help you get where you really want to go. And what you're really trying to do is provide a cadre of segments of the economy, those investors that are supporting that, whether it be boutique hotels or whatever, housing, whatever. Restaurants, you mentioned bars, whatever it might be. You're trying to provide a framework where they can make smart decisions and they can choose Ocean Springs. That way, the Condries of the world and the Joe Cloyds of the world, and you mentioned Knuckleheads and others, these people, the Nico family, these folks that are investing millions of dollars in your city, you're providing for them a roadmap for them to be able to spend the money. And that's what's behind all this, isn't it?
It is. We you talk about those folks who have made investments in Ocean Springs, and they've made smart investments. You talk about it's competitive. It is competitive, but part of that competitiveness also is in attracting the right investor and the right developer. And some of them may not want them to come. I've been a little bit criticized because of the housing situation and just the lack of apartments in Ocean Springs. Well, we we have a moratorium on apartments being built. And the reason it is because of infrastructure, not only infrastructure of water, sewer, drainage, but our school system. Our school system is busting at the seams right now. Everybody wants to be in Ocean Springs for the school system. And so we talk with this district and find out, how their growth is happening, what their plans are for the future. There's going to, the school district is getting ready to have to put some money in buildings, and we want to help help them any way we can to plan for that also. So there's several different groups that we try to talk with while we're doing these improvements. Some of it's right there in your face. We know if a street's falling in, but some of them we don't know. We don't know what the growth of these larger organizations are, what their plans are. So we try to talk and keep up with them and make those decisions jointly on how we move forward. But and every decision we make about growth and about development, we've got to look what is basically made Ocean Springs special, and it's the old town of Ocean Springs, and that we cannot mess that up, and we've got to keep that charm, that small fishing village feel, and I think we're doing a good job of it. I mean, there are probably people that don't think we are, but I think we are, and I think the vast majority of our residents think we are. We've got some improvements coming to the beachfront. I think it'll be a very friendly, family-friendly attraction with our marina and event center. It's not really designed for tourists, but I'm sure tourists will take advantage of it. We're hoping to have at least some transient boat slips where people can come in and spend a day in Ocean Springs or spend a week or a month in Ocean Springs. But primarily, it's a venue for our young families. We have a lot of young families in Ocean Springs, and it's a place where they can take their children down and play in the sand and get some food from a food truck and, just spend a nice day on the beach.
Hey, listen, you need only spend time walking around in downtown Ocean Springs or go to social media and see what people who are visiting the city say of the city. You just experience your own experience of being there, and boy, the city's in a good spot. And if you can just preserve that wonderful sense of place that everyone is drawn to, this walkable community that defines what a walkable community can be about, you got a lot to look forward to. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs, Kenny Holloway. We'll see you after this. Welcome to the final segment of the Ricky Mathews Show from the STMM Digital Studio. I've got my friend Kenny Holloway, the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs. And listen, we're lucky in coastal Mississippi because we are these collection of communities, each with its own special sense of place. You've heard me say it a billion times, but it's true. And we got a great crop of mayors, incidentally, that are working together for the most part to help. First of all, help each other when they can, but then also, focusing on their common issues. And we're in a good spot in coastal Mississippi at this stage of the game. As it relates to Ocean Springs, wonderful sense of place. Who can deny that? I have a sister who lives in Gulf Shores. My sister Mitzi and her husband Mac, and they love it there. Every chance Ann and the kids and I get a chance to go to downtown Ocean Springs to have dinner or whatever, we love it there. And then when I'm boating, I always get my gas at Kenny De Niro's over at Ocean Springs Harbor because, first of all, I love Kenny and what he's built there, but he's also competitive. I mean, it's a great place to go get gas, and I love to visit with him and the others that sort of congregate there when we're getting gas in the mornings. But it's the city is a collection of characters, isn't it, my friend?
It is a collection of characters. It really is, and it's really neat, really, because Kenny, he tries to play that old, rough, sailor guy. We call him the pirate. But anyway, he we got a lot of interesting characters. But you were talking about the coast, and each city has its own different thing, and that's what makes the whole Gulf Coast special and work. I was invited last week to celebrate the anniversary of Katrina at the aquarium, and Billy and Mayor Hughes and I were on the panel or the podium with the governor and Congressman Wicker, Senator Wicker, and and I got to about 5 minutes, and Fofo was there, and some of the other mayors from around the coast, and I mentioned it. I said, we're competitive. Each city is competitive with each other, but we also know what's good for one is good for the whole. And I think you're right. Maybe the first time ever.
Maybe ever, yeah. I agree.
Gulf Coast that all the mayors get together. We all get along. We share our best practices and what we're dealing with. We do it in Jackson County with our 4 mayors here, but we also do it throughout the coast, and it's very unique.
It is.
It's very unique and proportionate to have that. The people on the Gulf Coast is fortunate to have it right now.
It's, as the former publisher of the Sun Herald and had a wonderful mentor in Roland Weeks, it is unprecedented, and it is really a moment in time where you've got a great collection of mayors who care deeply about their cities, but who understand that the rising tide of coastal Mississippi is going to lift all boats, and that's why when, say, Billy Knight has to deal with a tornado, you're one of the first to go help him, and it's just amazing to see this all play out. And as someone who has a wonderful perspective on this, in myself, I love talking about it because I know how important it is. We didn't have this after Hurricane Camille. We have it now after Hurricane Katrina, and we've gotten better and better and better, and we're in a really defining moment now. And I think every mayor should be judged by his ability to not only protect his turf, but also find the common issues that allow him to connect as well with the other mayors of coastal Mississippi. It's a great thing. Hey, listen, speaking of sense of place, you got Walter Anderson Festival and all kinds of neat things coming, cruising, right around the corner. It's a good time to be in that city, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a busy fourth quarter coming up. We wrap up our final Friday at the Fort, the concert series we've been doing this month, the last Friday in September. Prior to that, we've got the Mississippi Songwriters Association, their festival, which is really a neat little festival. It's not overly crowded. It's growing in venues, but it's kind of like Ocean Springs turns into a small Nashville for a weekend, and you can just walk around and pop in and out of different venues and listen to people who write the songs and the stories. It's pretty interesting. It's really interesting. There's some award-winning songwriters here for that, and then cruising cranks up. Ocean Springs is a great venue for cruising under the oak trees, and then Peter Anderson. We've got our cemetery tour going to happen again in October. We've got the Christmas at Mary C. We'll be wrapping the oak trees here right after Peter Anderson. So we're going to wrap the oak trees up and light up the avenue like we did last year, and which was a big hit. I mean, it was just absolutely gorgeous. That happened. Me and Raven and Sarah Harris in my office, we were walking downtown one day, and I said, wouldn't it be cool to wrap these oak trees for Christmas? And they agreed. So we just started popping in businesses right then, and getting feedback, and everybody was for it. So it was a fun event.
You know this, but and we're at the end of our segment together, but my daughter Tori did a video one night when we were over there having dinner, and I posted it, and it was viewed tens of thousands of times. We had some music going on in the background, just beautiful. It reminded me of like Gatlinburg or something like that. It was really cool. Hey, listen, it's been a pleasure, Kenny, to spend some time with you, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
You bet. This has been Kenny Holloway, the mayor of the city of Ocean Springs. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.